to Inside Sponsorship, the show that provides sponsorship professionals with advice, insights and news so they can maximise their commercial programs and achieve best practice.
Hi everyone, and welcome to episode 26 of Inside Sponsorship and the first podcast for 2017. I'm your host, Daniel Oyston. I've just returned from a few weeks in the UK and had the chance to catch up with lots of people, but I wanted to give a shout out to a few of those I had coffee with who I know also listen to the podcast. So a quick shout out to Martin Court from Square Mile Sport, Fergus Bennett-Odlum from SportCal, and Neil Rowe from FC Business. Guys, it was great to catch up with you, have a coffee and talk shop. In this episode, because I was out of the office and in the UK, Mark has taken the microphone and interviewed Simon Chester, General Manager, Commercial Operations at Brumbies Rugby. But before I left, Mark and I did have the chance to sit down and discuss one of his recent blogs, which looks at ways brands can achieve sponsorship cut-through in what are often crowded markets. Here's Mark. Mark Thompson, welcome to 2017.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm great. How was New Year's for you? Any New Year's resolutions? More podcasts.
More podcasts. Mate, my wife and I are having a bub in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So focus is on that and obviously growing this great business.
Was that last year's New Year's resolution? It's only just coming to fruition now.
Yeah, it takes a while, doesn't it? It's so hard for us guys.
Yeah. Okay, so how's moving along?
How's your white Christmas and cold UK going?
It's a shock concerning that I left my house and pool and warm Australian summer and my traditional century that I usually score on Christmas Day in the backyard cricket. Yep. There was none of that. Right. It's all inside. Too cold to go outside.
Well, I can tell you that your pool's been in good hands.
Is it clean? That's all I care about.
Well, it's fresh. It's nice. It's been good to jump in. Haven't used the spa though.
No.
But I'm appreciating your deck.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
All right, I might actually get to use some of that stuff myself now I'm back. So, look, we got you on the podcast this time around because one of the challenges that we see a lot with sponsorship, particularly on the brand side, obviously, is that there's multiple rights holders. If we look at a sport, maybe there's multiple rights holders and there's usually one dominant broadcast partner, maybe a couple of others that buy games and things like that. They all have their own sponsorships and ads, and then grounds have sponsorships, and sometimes you're going to be competing directly with direct competitors in sponsorships that you can't control.
Well, if you look at an arena sport, something that's played in a stadium, you've got the rights holder or the rights holders that are playing, but the teams, you've got the governing body, you've got the actual venue, and the broadcaster. So there's 4 rights holders that are all converging.
Assuming that the team doesn't own the property, which is the case in Australia here sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, most of the time in Australia, I mean, over in the UK particularly, the teams own the venues as a general rule, so it removes that layer of difficulty. They still have broadcasters, they still have a governing body, and they've still got their own. So there's only one less. It still can get tricky, and there's certain categories of partners which are protected, and there's also other categories of partners which are not protected and therefore create some sort of conflicts and clashes. So that's what we're looking at.
And because there can be situations where, I don't know, you might be looking at the screen and you might be the official partner for something for that sport, but the broadcaster is showing an ad in between plays, and then you come back and there's signage in the background and maybe even signage on, jersey sponsorship for the away team. There's multiple aspects there, isn't there? Exactly
right. And so this blog came about from a real conversation I was having with a brand who are really active in the sponsorship space. And when we were chatting and the conversation moved to a really interesting topic for me, something I was fascinated with because we know about this sort of challenge that's out there, and it sits out there and not many people deal with it the same as each other. There's lots of different ways of dealing with it, but the way these guys dealt with it, I was really fascinated with and really impressed with. So,
because most brands would run a mile from a competitive situation like that, where it might seem hard to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly right. So, and that's what we kind of get into throughout this blog. So, I mean, the scenario, do you want me to paint the picture for where we're at? So, it was a betting platform, and they had a property as the official betting partner of a certain rights holder. So, their challenge is that while they are the official betting partner, the various venues and broadcast partners and teams have their own betting partnerships, because it's not an exclusively protected category across the entire game, and therefore it creates a sort of a cluttering in the market and creates multiple conflicts and dilution situations that come up quite regularly for them. So they explained a situation to me that occasionally occurs, which I just thought was madness. So the picture, you've got your official betting partner, your broadcaster has their own betting partner, and the venue has their own betting partner. They said at times you've got the broadcast, the live footage, and the screen pull-throughs are all simultaneously displaying different betting partners at the exact same time. Just through scheduling and stuff like that, you'll have 3 different platforms being promoted at the exact same time at each other. One might be LED, one might be big screen, one might be TV, but it's pure madness.
Sounds challenging.
Yeah.
What are they doing to help manage it?
I mean, ideally, their partnership would be exclusive across all channels, or the rights holder could take measures to protect them, but it's not always possible. And so, I mean, they're having a conversation around how they can manage that, which I'll get to towards the back end of this sort of this chat. But what they're currently doing is really impressive to me. So, as you just mentioned before, on the surface, most brands would run a mile when that sort of situation occurs, because it really would look on the surface to be a stunted opportunity, and you're just opening yourselves up to ambush marketing. So most companies would sort of just leave it alone, or try and put some really unrealistic type of goals in there that just will never be achieved because of that dilution.
But if you think through the challenge, you can probably come up with a few ways to help address it. Is that what they've done?
Well, that was the most impressive thing, is that as a brand, they were embracing the challenge to try and actually using it as an opportunity to position themselves differently to their competitors. So they were creating sponsorship cut through, or they are creating sponsorship cut through when these conflicts occur, because they're so strategic and strict, very disciplined with how they're going about their partnership.
So what are the things that they're doing?
So the first thing that they spoke to me about they're doing is that they're focusing on what their objectives are. So why they knew this situation was in play when they became a partner. So their objectives are different to most other agencies or platforms. So brand exposure for them is not high on their agenda, which is quite rare for a betting platform.
Why is that?
Well, their objectives are more around community engagement, building an audience, and then having qualified leads. So, and then what they do with that lead and those people is then the other part of the business. So they're treating sponsorship as part of their marketing mix rather than just a branding platform. So,
but they still have advertising, branding out there. But that's not they're not looking for initial awareness?
No, what they've got is quite a really unique view on how advertising works. And what their opinion is that advertising, works as a brand recognition piece, and realisation will be higher with customers who are already familiar and engaged through other means, than simply just seeing it at a venue or on a broadcast. So if their other marketing and their other advertising channels are working well for them, where they are standalone and they're controlling that through their other elements of their marketing mix, then these sport sponsorship opportunities are augmenting their realisation.
And it's more reinforcement, isn't it?
Exactly.
Brand recall.
They're using it as a channel that they can't access through their other channels. So
what are they doing to engage people that are already aware of them? So
they've got some specific strengths that they're playing to, and it's a real key differentiator of this brand in particular is that their content, their engagement, and their communication plan is really specific. And they have, even to the point that they've got a fully equipped studio in their office. And by fully equipped, I mean
jealous.
You could literally host a morning TV show in there. That's how fully equipped it is.
Very jealous.
Yeah. here we are in our little podcast studio.
For the listeners, this is about, I think it's 2.5 by about 3 metres.
Yeah. With foam
makeshift, a few makeshift
suppressors
elements
on the wall.
That's right.
Yeah. So
don't remove all the magic of this podcast.
We've got the right equipment. And so, as such, they seek rights within their partnerships, which will enable them to create TV shows, weekly video content, consumer engagement opportunities using their channels that they're really strong with, so that when they secure a lead through their sponsorship opportunities, their communication plan is in place so that their engagement becomes higher with those people.
How's this impacting on the relationship with the rights holder?
I mean, because of the conflict, their relationships with the rights holders are even stronger. So they're constantly working for new opportunities, and there's some really exciting opportunities which I can't share. It's not my news to share that they're going to be releasing next year. But the focus is on a true partnership with their rights holders rather than just short-term transactional sponsorships. So, they're looking at ways of manoeuvring around the challenge to actually drive value, which is quite impressive.
And do you think this will help them be more successful in the long term, in the long run?
So I think they will, but we haven't mentioned why I think they'll actually be successful. So that apart from those, there's real pure strategic,
because they make sense.
Yeah, but they're strategic and they're disciplined. So they've got a playbook they're sticking to for their sponsorship.
Yep.
But why I think they're going to be really successful is that they're, as we mentioned before, they're working of ways around, to avoid the conflict as well. Because obviously the ideal situation is not have to have workarounds; it's just to not have it. So, and what they're looking at doing, which is what made me really believe that this is a great sponsorship organisation, is that they have an authentic interest in the sport and the audience. And the solution to the anti-cluttering didn't involve blocking other partners or whatever. It actually involved reducing the amount of gambling advertising, so cutting it back, just giving them the exclusive rights to the reduced amount, so actually giving them less branding and advertising opportunities, but only allowing one partner to do that. And with the space freed up, that they could then compensate those other partners that have the rights to those venues so that they can use money in other ways and stuff like that, so that the broadcast and everything is consistent across one partner because they've paid the rights for the rights holder, but actually coming up with solutions that didn't detriment the other partners. So it's sort of kind of like a fair play scenario. But also their thought on it is that it's actually healthier for the consumer because of the responsible gambling, reduced amount of advertising, and it's a socially responsible, it's a collaborative, and it's an authentic approach, which it just displays a real understanding of what sponsorship is all about. It's about partnerships, and it's about coming up with reasonable solutions to problems so that everybody can have a positive outcome.
Great chat, and it's definitely something that crosses my mind when I'm watching sport and I see competing brands sponsoring and advertising in the broadcast and on websites and sponsoring teams and things like that. And
I mean, it's not unique to the gambling industry. I was at a EPL game at White Hart Lane, and one half was a different power tool company to the other half, and one was because one was a league sponsor, one was a team sponsor.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to read about how that brand's approaching and helping solve that problem, head along to read Mark's blog at sponserv.net. Thanks for joining us.
Cheers, mate.
The ACT Brumbies were part of the first Super 12 tournament in 1996 as the third Australian provincial team. And at the time, many predicted that the Brumbies, made up of so-called rejects, so players not wanted by the other two Australian teams, would perform poorly. However, the franchise quickly set about creating a culture envied by many, and since then, they have enjoyed more success than all the other Australian teams combined, reaching 6 finals and winning 2. Simon Chester, General Manager, Commercial Operations, has been at the Brumbies for 5.5 years, and in that time has provided the organisation with stability and leadership to ensure that the Brumbies are well supported for on-field success, including recently signing a new naming rights partner, which now makes the Brumbies shirt the most valuable in Australian rugby. Here's Simon.
So Simon Chester, welcome to the show. You're lucky you've got a guest host today with Daniel over in the UK.
Great. Looking forward to getting into it.
So a bit of an icebreaker question at first. What was your first ever job, right back at school or just when you left school?
My first ever job was working at Hawker IGA, supermarket there. I had to collect trolleys, fill the milk, the beer and the soft drinks. I did that for about 3 years.
Nice. Knowing you as well, you probably taxed them a little bit for yourself.
Yeah, a little bit along the way, but it was good. I was able to walk to work. I've been growing up in Hawker and sort of got a fair few shifts there after school, and it's and living back in Hawker now, I still go do my shopping there.
Now, moving on to into the real world, you've worked on both sides of the fence in sponsorship. So you're currently obviously the general manager of commercial operations for Brumbies Rugby. Sort of, what's the progression, your career progression, been up to your current role?
Yeah, well, whilst I was finishing my marketing communications degree at the University of Canberra, I was working part-time for Kellogg's, the cereal company, and I was in a sort of merchandising / sales role for them, going around to supermarkets and selling in cereal and trying to get additional sales and trying to get some promotional displays. And that was a really good job to have whilst I was studying, because it was flexible hours, but it also taught me the ability to deal with different people at different levels. So once I graduated, I accepted a role at Kellogg's head office in the independent supermarket category, and worked there for a couple of years. And not long after, the Western Force got the license to enter the Super Rugby competition, I went over there in a junior sponsorship role, and left there after 4 seasons as the partnerships manager, looking after all of sponsorship. The main motivation to leave was to get back to Canberra, and in doing so, I became the sponsorship manager for ActuAGL, so sitting on the other side of the fence, with the biggest energy retailer in the Canberra region. So after a couple of years there, I was approached by the Brumbies to come on and assist in a business development capacity, selling some sweets and boxes and some sponsorship. And then from there, progressed into General Manager Commercial, where I've been in this role now for the best part of 3 years.
I hear when you first joined the Brumbies, you shared an office with a really good-looking bloke. Is that true?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, in my first few months there, I did share an office with yourself, and it was good times.
It was. I bet they were the best days in your life.
Yeah, they were.
Saddest day ever when I left, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Hey, so your current role is quite broad, one of the broadest we've seen across commercial operations within sport, where you oversee your commercial operations division, sponsorship, marketing, membership, media, corporate hospitality and operations. What sort of team do you have in place around you that helps you look after so much so effectively?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. It's crucial to, there's so many things that sort of fall under my area, and it's really crucial to get the right people in the right areas to sort of take the pressure off a bit and allow me to focus on some other things that aren't even listed there, like, opportunities in different markets like China, and also government relationships, grants, all that sort of stuff. So got a couple of key senior managers within those areas that drive the more junior stuff, and really does take the pressure off me significantly.
That's good. And it's a funny thing, we travel around the world a fair bit in our roles here at Sponserve, and the Brumbies is synonymous with Australian sport, not just rugby, and it's actually seen as one of the biggest and best sporting organisations in the country when you are in the Northern Hemisphere especially. So given it, and you are positioned in probably one of Australia's smallest markets, so how do you do you guys differentiate yourselves, being from a small town in a crowded Australian sports marketplace when you're talking to potential sponsors?
Yeah, you're spot on, and you touched on a little bit there. The strength of our brand, does help, but it is a crowded market, and Canberra's got even more crowded in recent years with GWS and the emergence of some, cricket games and whatnot coming here. So we really look to play to our strengths. Rugby globally is probably the strongest it's ever been in terms of participation and global television audience. The strength of the UK and France competitions is certainly helping, and whilst it's going through a sort of leanish period locally, the global appeal is still massive. So the fact that our games are getting beamed into nearly 70 countries live is a big strength of ours, and we also play to our advantages in terms of being the home of federal government. We've been able to do some deals on the back of, being based here in Canberra and being able to get a lot easier access to some of those decision makers when it comes to federal politics.
Excellent. So, off the back of that, we often hear people talking about the 8 core objectives that sponsors are looking to achieve by, sponsoring any given rights holder. Those being brand awareness, positioning, community engagement, relationship building, generating sales, qualified leads, networking, and building an audience. What objectives do you think the Brumbies are best placed to help brands achieve when coming on board with you guys?
Yeah, I guess the key ones, Land Rover's a good example of brand awareness. Whilst they don't sell a whole lot of cars in comparison to other markets within Australia, the brand awareness globally is big for them. As I said, those 70 countries that we go live into, them being on the sleeve generates a significant brand awareness for them.
Yep.
Community engagement's a big one. Well, the strength of Canberra being a smaller town is, everyone's a Brumbies fan, whether or not they come to all the games. It's Canberra's team. So, brands like Canberra Milk and whatnot can get really involved with the community and grassroots.
Yep.
And we are pretty good at being able to, network and in turn generate leads and sales for our sponsors. We do see ourselves more as a B2B proposition than a B2C. A Mars bar or a Nutrigrain wouldn't be probably a great fit on the front of our jersey, just because I don't think we'd be able to generate those sort of return sales for those sort of brands. But certainly in terms of an SG fleet that's looking to, get some bigger government contracts, that's where we can be quite effective.
There's a few lessons there for some young sponsorship managers about knowing your USP there. So you mentioned you were at the Western Force. That was going on 10 years ago now. So how do you think the approach of brands towards sponsorship has changed within that time?
Yeah, I've seen a massive shift. As you say, I've been in the sponsorship game for over 10 years now. And when I first started out, it was very much what I like to call, I guess, chairman's choice.
Yeah.
It was very much, hey, we need a sponsor. It's $500,000. Are you in or you're out? You'd often get a lot of deals just on the back of, someone on the board knowing someone, or
yep.
a company needing to spend, some money, and were a fan of the team, or it was a good idea. Now it's because it is a competitive market and a lot harder, and brands have to justify that back to their boards. It's, you've got to be a lot more strategic. You've got to be able to demonstrate return on investment, and it's a lot harder now to, you'll still occasionally land some deals because the CEO or the chairman is a big fan of the organisation, but that's a lot rarer than it was, as I said, a decade or so ago.
And do you think that feeds into also the gone are the days of the fixed packages, the gold, silver, bronze.
Absolutely.
It's much more of a business proposition now, do you think?
Correct. I mean, 10 years ago, I would have sort of gone in, with the front of jersey package, the same benefits for everyone we were talking to, same, and as you say, the gold, silver, bronze, whereas, now, no two, we were in the market for a collar sponsor last season, and we pitched it to, 20 different organisations, and there were 20 different proposals with, 20 different benefits package based on what they were looking for and what they were seeking out of the relationship. So there's no set packages. It's really structured around what the partner needs.
Yeah, excellent. So the Brumbies do receive international exposure, and you've got international brand partners. We've just mentioned Land Rover and the reasons they're on board. The Canberra audience is only around 380,000, plus the surrounding region, of course. Do you see it as an advantage operating in a very well-connected town, or does it make it much harder?
Yeah, it's got its pluses and minuses. I mean, going back to my Western Force days, and I see it now with the Melbourne Rebels in those bigger markets and cluttered. It's very hard to get messaging out about the team, the game, and anything. Yeah. We're lucky here being in a small community that, the Canberra Times and the local news in season will talk about us every day. So we're really fortunate in that space that we don't have to spend as many marketing dollars to promote the games. Generally, people are aware that we're on, and that's a big advantage. The fact that we are in a smaller government-driven town is a bit of a disadvantage. A lot of the big corporate private sector companies here have challenges being able to spend sponsorship dollars on sport with sort of probity and anti-corruption laws. So that's a disadvantage. But brands like Canberra Milk and ActuAGL that have been involved in the Brumbies on and off for some time now, that the sort of smaller, under 400,000 people community, they get a lot more bang for the buck and a lot more exposure. Plus, the global audience, as I've mentioned a few times, is massive. So we're able to target, sell community assets to those smaller private sector Canberra-based organisations, and then the jersey assets to the bigger partners.
And it kind of adopts more of an authentic approach. There's much more authenticity in the brands that are supporting you because they've got a real reason to do so.
That's right.
So now let's look towards your most recent announcement. You guys recently signed Plus 500 as your new front of jersey naming rights partner, and I mean that's a significant deal. Those guys are Atletico Madrid's shirt sponsor, and that now makes you guys with the having the most valuable shirt in Australian rugby. So congratulations on that. A lot of credit needs to go to yourself and your team. But talk us through how a deal came about with a company headquartered in Israel and operating in a predominantly European soccer market.
Yeah, well, going back about 18 months or so now, I linked in with a sponsorship broker based in the UK. I'm a big fan of LinkedIn and probably spend at least half an hour each morning looking through, reading some stories on there and connecting with some new people. And it came from a connection about 18 months ago, and connected with a guy that sort of specialised in these deals, and we had a crack at Plus 500 sort of 12 months leading into the 2016 season, and got quite close, and it didn't come off, and re-engaged for the 2017 season. And for them, they've only done one sponsorship ever in Atletico Madrid, and they're now operating in Australia and soon to be New Zealand and South Africa. So Super Rugby is a good fit for them.
Yep.
And the fact that we'd already sort of presented 12 months earlier made it a much easier proposition for them. They knew us, and it came together like that. Timing's everything, and the demographic for rugby is right for their product. So we got lucky in a sense, but it was also down to, having that connection on LinkedIn sort of 18 months prior.
Can we give a shout out to the sponsorship broker?
Yeah, so the guys from WH Sports, guy by the name of Joe Williams, put the deal together.
Good blokes, those guys. You yourself introduced them to us when we moved into the UK, and they've been tremendous help over there as well.
Great. Yeah, really good guys, and I'm confident we'll do some more stuff with them in the near future.
I hear they'll be on our shores in March as a guest of yours, so
that's correct. Yeah,
that'll be good. So, staying back onto the deal that just happened, Aquis were the naming rights partner of the Brumbies. They just recently had announced an extension of that. So, obviously things have had to change with the plus 500 coming on board. How did you go about a conversation with Aquis moving them to a different property, and what does that look like now?
Yeah, well, I guess it's really a testament to the relationship and the partnership we have with those guys. They've been involved with the Brumbies for several seasons now, and the relationship was so strong. The fact that they know the financial pressures the organisation's under, and so we, looked to restructure their benefits package to be a bit more focused on the community to free up that front of jersey space for this new brand in plus 500. So, it was quite an easy conversation in the end, based on the strength of the relationship. They're committed to the Brumbies long term, and saw that this opportunity would, I guess, really ease the pressures for us financially going into the 2017 season.
Oh, that's great. Now, talking about your future planning and pivoting now into something a bit different, you guys have had some well-publicised success with your app in the last 12 months. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about the app and why you decided to build it?
Yeah, well, again, we're really looking to be at the front of innovation in terms of the Australian sporting teams. We have to play to our strengths and create create our own strengths. So we had a really big focus on building our social media platforms. That's sort of put us in second place now of the Australian teams in terms of our following on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, and number one in terms of our engagement with the fans of all the Australian teams. Following on from that, we created a new website, and that came about with our partnership with CSC, Computer Science Corporation, and website was stage one and app was stage two, and it was really just to stand out from the crowd, but also because we do have a global audience, to be able to feed information and stats in a timely manner globally. Additional assets to sell to new partners along the way, and the feedback from the app and the new website's been excellent.
Yeah, so I mean, some of the numbers that we've got around those are that your weekly traffic was up by 240%, and you increased your Facebook following 20-fold off the back of the app, which are amazing numbers. We also know, obviously, you've talked about engagement. So engaged audiences are one thing that sponsors find really attractive. So how have you leveraged, or how do you intend to leverage that further to increase engagement from the app on the sponsorship front? Yeah,
well, it's interesting, one of your previous questions about one of the things that's changed in the 10 or so years I've been working in sponsorship is it's now less about, how many members do you have, what's your average crowd attendance, to more focused on, what's your digital presence.
Yep.
And especially, to be able to attract those global brands, that was really our focus, to increase the followings across those platforms. And to do so, we needed a really good digital strategy, and we needed to have regular content and valuable content daily. So the biggest leverage for us is really just in pushing that towards new potential partners, and the stronger it gets, the more appealing it is for brands.
Yeah, no, That's very much the way of the future, and some people have really adopted it, and others struggle to do so still. So it's very interesting. So, are there any areas of your commercial program that could provide significant value to a sponsor that brands themselves haven't quite adapted to yet, that you think are some areas that are going to have significant growth for you?
Yeah, we've probably focused, and it's mainly been a resourcing issue internally on, the Brumbies, the high performance team that runs out in the Super Rugby competition. But running community rugby here, there's lots of additional assets in terms of under 20s and pathways, and that we're just starting to go out into the market with now. So it's that they haven't been sort of pushed from our side, but also there hasn't been a huge interest from other brands in the past, and that's probably more of an awareness thing. So I think that's where we're going to see some growth in the coming year.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, given your unique positioning there, being a small town surrounding rural area and with access to government, you've got a wide range of partners that would be suitable there. So that could be quite exciting for you, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
So last year we were lucky enough here to be granted access to a pretty special at-game experience in the locker room at the Brumbies. Mm-hmm. What are some of the at-game and surrounding the team experiential opportunities that you guys look to offer sponsors?
We try and create as much sort of access to the team as possible, and that behind the scenes stuff I think is crucial. So that locker room package is kind of as it says. We while the team's out doing their warm up, we take a group of sponsors and corporate partners down into the locker room. Team manager shows them sort of a bit about the pre-game prep, and you can see where the guys do their sort of last minute preparations, and it's a pretty special place and rare opportunity to be a part of. We also take partners down into the locker room after the game, because when the team's had a good win, and we do each year a trip away with the team to some of our higher end bigger partners, where we sort of go on tour with the team, stay at the same hotel, and really be part of the week-long preparation into a game in South Africa or New Zealand or even Melbourne or Brisbane and sometimes Perth. So, we try and create as much access to those behind-the-scenes, money-can't-buy opportunities as we can.
Yeah, I can tell you in the locker room the day we were there were some of your other partners in there, and Stephen Larkham, the head coach, came in and spoke to them prior to the match and spoke about the tactics of throwing some inside balls early and then pushing it wide. And the first 10 minutes of the game, you guys scored 2 tries off inside balls, and then after about the half an hour mark, you scored one off throwing it wide. And the vibe and the chat amongst the partners in the room were they thought they had the world's best secret, and it was such an amazing thing to see unfold.
Oh, that's great. Good feedback.
Yeah. So the commercial program, you've spoken about the grassroots area and the outward-facing stuff around your commercial program. What are some of the internal areas you're looking to focus on developing over the next 12 months or so commercially?
Yeah, a few of the key ones is I've touched on our digital assets, our app and our website, so we're just beginning a journey now to start to commercialise that and monetise those a bit more.
Yep.
We've got them to a stage now where they are, powerful resources, so, selling advertising and packages for those assets. We're also have undertaken a project in China to assist them in growing the game. They're looking to set up a national league there, and so we've been up and we're starting to form some agreements now with Chinese Rugby Union to assist them over the next few years. So they're probably the 2 big things commercially that we'll be developing over the next 12 months.
Wow. Simon Chester, if people want to get in touch with you or find out more about the Brumbies, what can they do?
Call me, email me, LinkedIn. Always open for a chat.
Not a problem. So Simon Chester, General Manager Commercial Operations, thank you so much for taking us inside sponsorship at Brumbies Rugby.
No problem at all. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks again to Simon for spending time with us and providing some great insights to their commercial program. And also thanks again to Mark for covering the microphone in my absence. As Simon said at the end there, he's always up for a chat, so get in contact either through LinkedIn or head to brumbies.com.au. And of course, I'll provide some links in the show notes on sponserve.net. If you want to connect with me, you can do so on LinkedIn. Just search for Daniel Oyston or drop me an email at daniel@sponserve.net or on Twitter using the handle @sponserve. And of course, you can connect with Mark Thompson as well on LinkedIn or using email mark@sponserve.net. I hope you enjoyed the first episode for 2017, and we have some great guests lined up for you this year. However, if there's someone or an organisation that you'd love to hear from and learn more about, whether that's on the rights holder side or the brand side, then be sure to get in touch and let us know. Of course, as always, if you've got 2 minutes and you love the show, then be sure to head to iTunes and leave us a quick review, because it does make a really big difference in helping others discover the show, and so we'd really, really appreciate it. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to receive all our content straight to your inbox. Simply head to any of our blogs or podcasts at sponserve.net and fill in the subscription form, and we'll deliver that content to your inbox each and every week. Until next time, I'm Daniel Oyston. Thanks for listening to Inside Sponsorship.
Thanks for listening to the show. For more episodes, blogs and resources, head to sponserve.net or search for Sponserve on Facebook, Twitter or LinkedIn.